Jah, no God when you sing it. Yeah. Dedicated to the sun, yeah. That's the S-U-N. Known to walk on water, die and rise again. The sustainer of human life, yeah. Most powerful thing you ever seen with your two eyes. Hail up the sun, hail up nature, hail up our men. Hail up the ancestors who taught us nature, using the nature. Get me? Yeah. Alright, listen.
I've recently working at University College London, where we've been running a number of different projects. One of them is called Why is my curriculum white? We decided to put that project together because we were trying to identify exactly what it was that brought about the inequalities, the Eurocentrism, and the reproduction of dominant power structures within academia, right? And so we thought, okay, so if this thing that we call race is a social construct, if it is something that's been thought up by people rather than being something that's biologically real, something that that geneticists can identify, then how was it socially constructed, right? I'll use an example to try and make myself a little bit more clear. When I was growing up, went to school in East London. When I was growing up, I was identified racially as being mixed race, right? People might say, "Oh, you're a lighty," something like that, right? But then when I got to university, which was a predominantly white space, suddenly I was identified as black. I was identified as a black student. But then when I travel to the Caribbean, where my family are from, particularly if I go to rural areas, I'm white. I'm identified as white. So what we see here is that race isn't a biological, it's not a genetic thing, it's a social construct. And it's socially constructed depending upon the geographical, historical space in which you're operating. So in order for us to effectively identify these kind of problematics and call them out, we had to identify, okay, so if race is socially constructed, was it constructed benevolently? No. It was constructed ideologically. And what was put at the top of that hierarchy was what we call whiteness, right? And so in order to be able to effectively identify that problematic, what we had to do was be able to think about that ideology, take it out of its context and expose it, which is why we had this project called Why is my curriculum white? And in doing that, we were able to identify not just the reading lists of people who are racialised as whites, or the thought processes that reproduce the idea that whiteness equals intellectual moral superiority, but we were able to effectively give people the critical tools to identify power and deconstruct it. But what we also see are similar movements identifying power on our streets. One of the things I thought was really, really interesting about the Black Lives Matter movement, and something that I think changed quite a lot from previous generations, is the way in which it uses direct action. Because back in November, when there was a big action inside Westfield and outside Westfield, we saw 74 people arrested, right? And I remember speaking to some of the elders afterwards, a few days later, who'd been involved in Broadwater Farm, who'd been involved in a lot of different movements during the 1980s. And they couldn't understand why it was that shopping centres were being targeted in response to a death in police custody. And I think there's a number of reasons why that took place. I think there's a number of reasons. I think one of them is that these areas are easily identifiable. They're clearly centres of power. They're a lot warmer than being outside in the streets. But also, it's the realisation that capital and the state are intrinsically linked. If we live in a capitalist democracy in which big money funds elections and controls politicians, then being able to disrupts the flow of capital in order to hit them in their pockets, shutting down somewhere like Westfield makes perfect sense. Right, I'm going to say a few words now about the roots of hip hop, and in the kind of maybe the British context a little bit, because as we know, the roots of hip hop, from the way I see it, builds a lot of bridges across what Paul Gilroy called the Black Atlantic. African Caribbean migrants who moved to New York developed a form of poetry which became hip hop, drawing on other cultures of African heritage such as blues, jazz, funk. People like DJ Kool Herc, Grandmaster Flash, African Bambaataa were all either Caribbean migrants themselves or their parents came over from the Caribbean, particularly Jamaica and Barbados. But of course, there was another African Caribbean migration here to the United Kingdom. And just as African Caribbean people brought their sound system cultures to the United States, African Caribbean people brought their sound system cultures here to Britain. And so we also saw a similar evolution of music, of poetic music, come out of these sound system cultures here in Britain. We saw people like Smiley Culture bring a new form of British reggae. We saw it develop into things like jungle and garage, and now of course grime. And as Stuart Hall has stressed, the importance of these youth-led cultural formations is absolutely imperative in rebuilding any kind of liberatory movement. And we see this in the way in which grime can relate to things like policing, prisons, civil unrest, and black identities. Today, co-optation is the neoliberal staple. And we've all been to cheesy nights out, cheesy clubs, we're blasting old school hip hop classics, decontextualizing their revolutionary roots and intentions, while presenting this art form as part and parcel of the plurality of free market capitalism. It's not. And just as neoliberalism has consumed, processed, and regurgitated resistance to enslavement and white supremacy with caricatures like Django or submissive butlers, neoliberal capital has also tried desperately to repackage and sell back revolutionary art forms like hip-hop to us, the people that it's supposed to liberate. And among those who stand in their way is the thinker, writer, creative, and social activist who will be addressing us this evening. The teacher. He grew up in the Bronx in New York and has a career spanning 4 decades. He's an author of numerous books, including The Gospel of Hip Hop and Ruminations. His cross-disciplinary analysis incorporates theological, philosophical, historical, and literary thought, cultural criticism, and even a science of hip-hop. He's the most influential, if not the only, hip-hop polymath. KRS-ONE.
You know, before I start, I'd like to take a few questions. Normally, this would be called a hip-hop masterclass, meaning several things. One, when you say masterclass, for the women in the audience, this is also a mistress class. Master-mistress class, in the sense that what is most important with learning is also who you are learning from. If you don't know the history to the authors of the books that you read, you don't know the book. It could be anything: science, mathematics, history, other literature, you know, like short stories and so on. If you don't know the history of the author, you really don't know what you're reading. Many people take an encyclopedia, better yet, take the Bible, for instance. Many people read the Bible, believe on what is being said, of course. It's faith. But your attitude toward an important book like the Bible can be changed by you knowing the history of the author. if someone just said, look, this is the Holy Bible, this is Genesis, this is Deuteronomy, or Exodus, these are the first Bible, this is the New Testament, this is the Bible, this is what it is. And you say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to get into this. This is the Bible, this is Christian literature, history, faith. I'm going to get into it. And you look at the bottom, it says, the King James Version of the Bible. Some people may say, well, King James is okay with me. I don't know much about King James. It's just the King James Version of the Bible. If you was to offer someone that same book and it said, this is the George Bush version, this is the Adolf Hitler version, this is the devil's version, would you still read the book? It's the same book, but the author changes your perception as to what you are reading. Why do I start here? Because this is called a master class. Why? Because of who is teaching you today. You know a bit about my history. If you don't get it, you won't understand what I'm saying here. My history is an open book. You can see it right there online. I mean, my real history, my personal life is actually online, whatever that means. But it's important that you know a little bit about my past and a little bit about my journey in order to understand some of the controversial topics I'm going to bring up to you today. I am labeled a controversial. I don't know where that word really comes from. I just speak the truth. And the truth these days seems to be a problem. You can't just speak the truth. You have to get an approval for it. Young students today, like yourselves, you kind of need this kind of education. Why is this called a master class? Because today you're going to learn another portion of hip hop, another piece of it, from someone who was actually there. Very important. In the future, when we're all gone, in the grave, other students will not have this opportunity. You have this opportunity right now. I'll give you an example. 8 years ago, I was here. I was scheduled to speak at Oxford University. I got there. The dean realized that it was me and canceled the lecture. Right there on the spot. So the students went into an uproar, and somehow the school negotiated where I was able to speak in Christ Church as opposed to actual Oxford University auditorium that we were scheduled for. Why did this happen? Because Oxford University's idea of a scholar is not me. Come on now. This is the center of learning. Someone like me comes up, hey, I got something to show you. Get out of here. But all the great professors went through the same thing. You go back on anybody's history, they were first called the outcasts. This is the meaning to my first album, which was called Criminal Minded. Many people believe that we was just, kids in the hood doing our thing. We named the album Criminal Minded. Well, that's the surface of it. But the deeper part to it, which I said over and over and over and over again in many interviews, that Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., was criminal-minded. Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, John Lennon, criminals of their time. Intellectual criminals. Some, like Dr. King, real criminals going to real prisons. I mentioned the Bible. Jesus the Christ, criminal. Criminal-minded. John the Baptist got his head chopped off. Criminal. Knowledge and education begins with criminals. Damn it, did I say that? Here we go. I told you it's going to be controversial. Okay. Matter of fact, let me pause you. knowledge and education begins always against the law. Why? I think I'm somewhere in the science section of this university. I should stay within a science context. You know, Copernicus, Newton, Isaac Newton, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Criminals! Criminals! Some were even persecuted criminally. Why? Because you have a new idea. New ideas are criminal. You can always get a good, you ever want to know what a good idea is? Everyone disagrees with it. Anytime someone's standing there going, yeah, I get, you say, I have new knowledge. And everyone says, well, we understand it. It's not new knowledge then. New knowledge shatters your old thinking. Not replaces it, shatters it. This is why no one wants to learn anything new. Everyone wants to build upon what they already know. That's not knowledge. That's called information. Big difference. Information is external stimuli. Information hits your five senses and you become aware based on your senses. That is information. Knowledge is about you. Knowledge, real knowledge, is subjective, not objective. There's no such thing as objective knowledge. That's information. Knowledge is subjective. It hits you. It's about you. It affects you. It may even come from you. That's knowledge. But knowledge is not education. Education is training. Now look at this. Information, external stimuli. Knowledge, me, out. Self-expression. Knowledge, knowledge. To know. To know is to be aware. External information does not make you aware. Awareness is internal. Awareness is always on the inside. Knowledge is about awareness. How do I see my world? Information is telling you how to see your world. In America, we're taught that Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492. Nina Pinta Santa Maria. 3 ships, of course, not women. 3 ships came across. And there's Christopher Columbus discovering America. Now, we're still taught this in 2015. There's all kind of DVDs, there's all kind of books that refute all of this. But somehow, in just the average public school system, this untruth is still being taught. This is information. Information has nothing really to do with you. It's trying to form you to the society. It's external. Knowledge usually comes from you, and it is about you. We're talking about knowledge today, comma. Education is training. When you say, I'm being educated, what are you being educated for? I'm being trained for something. Now, unfortunately, a lot of education, not really at the college level, well, you could argue that it is, but really at the elementary levels of learning, education is about responding reflexively to the commands of authority. Someone that you believe has authority, you're taught at a young age what authority is. And this is, you know, and you have all these authority figures, and you're supposed to respond reflexively. Not, you don't think about it. It's, let me just, you know, the person says, jump, you jump. Stop, okay. Raise your hand, okay. Trained, that's education. Intelligence is the ability to know. Intelligence is not education. Intelligence is not knowledge. Intelligence is not information. Intelligence is the ability to know. The ability to know. Meaning, can you ask the right questions? Get the right answers? Are you asking questions at all? Some people go with the information, that's it. The BBC said this, and that's it. I believe that. 2 years ago, Greece was in an uproar. All across the television, Greece is burning cars down there. The economy's going crazy. I'm just pointing it as a fictitious TV. But, you know, Greece is going through craziness on the TV. Somehow I had a concert in Greece. I land in Greece right there where the riots and uprising and people are throwing, according to the TV. I land in Greece, the most peaceful place I ever been to on the earth. I'm eating, drinking, we laughing, we running around with some Greek dudes, we like, yeah. I drive a little ways, now here's what the camera was showing. Here's what they're showing. There was a little section way off somewhere. Cops are there, the protesters are there. They had it roped off. You had a choice whether you wanted to join in that or just keep it moving right there. They were going crazy. It was a little section right here, like this desk, a little section over here. Now the camera is focused on that one little section. The whole of Greece is like, well, yeah, that's them down the block. Of course, it was serious. Those people were protesting realness. That was a real protest. Not that the protest was fake. What was fake was the information about it. Many people just went along with it. The whole Greek tourism market fell that year because no one wanted to go and get hit in the head with a bottle. Had they went to Greece, they would have seen that's just a small section. They got it roped off. You can see CNN's van. You can see BBC's van. You can see it's like a little press kit. The protesters are there. The cops. It's a nice staged situation. A nice staged situation. This is information. Most of us are living our lives based on information, not knowledge. Others of us get a little more educated. What is education? Training. What am I being trained for? The job market. Wow. Wow. You mean the whole point of me learning is to get a job? We got to do a little better than that. In a quick nutshell, the point of education is to make you an adult, not to get a job. I just wanted to say that, okay? The point of education is for you to mature. You're supposed to go from little kid to big kid. Okay, that's the point of education. Okay, but education is, here's an example of education. I gotta say this before I even can get into hip hop. Education. My education tells me, I'm a black man. I'm an African American, whatever that is. That's education. Education is you're a black man, African American. Let's stay with, you're a black man, okay? And it's a great poster here. Education says, I am a black man. That's education. I was told that. I didn't tell myself that. In fact, when I was first born, I didn't know what to think. I was at the mercy of whatever teacher I was in front of, and here you go. Oh, you're a black man. Well, wait a minute. Let me apply my intelligence to that. This is the color black. See, here's where intelligence just shatters education. This is black. This is black. Look at the guy here. Okay, I'm just saying. This is black. This guy is brown. In fact, all of humanity is brown. There are no black people. I don't care how dark you are. You are not black. Go even further. I mean, let me find some white around here. This wall, maybe? I mean, really look at it. Look, here's the bottom here. Let's just look at this for the sake of it. This is the actual color white. If white people look like this, they'd be dead. No human being can survive as a white person. There are no white people. There are no black people. They're red. Okay, we got these red. We got yellow. We got, well, what is that? All of humanity is a different shade of brown. All of humanity. All of humanity. Now, if you can see with your intelligence, not with your education, not with information, apply your intelligence, which sees things as they are. As I just pointed out, as you can see, this guy here is not black. You call him a brown man, a caramel man, whatever this color is. And by the way, this is all touched up with lighting, by the way. So compare it to me now, to him, okay? Even this is not even the truth. But you can make a comparison between something as simple as color. Okay, I'm wearing white. Okay, look at the colors here. None of these colors match. But somehow, I'm living a black man's reality. I'm basically living an illusion. How can my life ever get better? How can I ever rise if what I keep reaching for doesn't exist? This is where hip hop comes in. Because when I was a black man, I experienced black man situations. The cops, I can't get a job. Cabs won't stop for me. I hate this school system. Where's my father? A black man situation. As long as I was black, I experienced a black man situation. The minute I became hip hop, my reality changed. I will always be a black man. Let me say that politically. I know exactly what it means to be black. And I stand on that. But I am speaking to intellectuals today. You got to know the truth. My personal convictions about myself is irrelevant today. You are thinkers. Let's think then. Let's think for real. Let's think. First, I was a black man experiencing black man problems. I joined this culture called hip hop, early 70s. Breaking, MCing, graffiti writing, DJing, beatboxing. Jean jackets with graph on the back. Oh, I'm sorry, for those that aren't bilingual. Graffiti writing on the back of jackets. I'm chilling. I'm doing my thing. Fat shoelaces, no shoelaces. Yeah. I turned myself into something that other black people were not. In fact, other African Americans despised the type of black man that I became. I said, look, there's another way to do this. We got something better than education. We got hip hop. We can sidestep the entire mainstream process and reach peace and prosperity. We can do this. We discovered it in the 70s. Our parents said, you're crazy. You're out of your mind. You're not going nowhere. Pull your pants up. Ah, ya, 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 ya. 10 years later, our parents are in a disaster. Grandparents, disaster. Total disaster what happened to our parents and grandparents. The economic system that they relied upon. Reaching back for that illusion. 401k, I don't know what you call it here, pension and all that type. Oh, I'm gonna work for 30 years and when I'm done, I'm gonna retire and be chilling. That's over. No more Social Security. No more, none of that's gone. Most young people will be working their entire lives. You'll probably die at work. We need hip-hop right now. Why? Because as long as I'm going through an illusion, I'm never gonna get to my solution. I'm always reaching for a cloud that I could never really grab because it's not real. So what happened? What was hip hop? How did we sidestep the whole process? How did this happen? Well, I'm a black man. I realized, wait a minute. I don't know yet if I'm that kind of black man over there. Look at it. Dr. Martin Luther King was one kind of black man. Dr. Martin Luther King was the black man that believed in integration in the United States. He believed that the United States should be more consistent with its rhetoric. Rhetoric is the Declaration of Independence. The US Constitution is actual law. The rhetoric of the Declaration of Independence from Britain, this rhetoric is what Dr. King, and the constitutional law, Dr. King said, no, you said this in your founding documents. Why are you not treating us like this? Equal citizenship under the law. We want the law to treat everybody equal. Isn't that what your whole foundation is, America? So why is there separate eating places for us, black people? Why? Or then it was Negroes. Why is there separate? What is this? That's Dr. King. Dr. King had no money. The man was poor his whole life. But somehow this one guy managed to change the entire law of the day, not just for black people, for every single American. He went up against the system, got a brick in his head, well, he was actually killed at the end of the day. Actually, they just offed him at the end of the day. But before he left, he changed things for everybody, all of us. Now there's another man called Malcolm X. Malcolm X was like, F this whole system. The whole thing is corrupt. You ain't never gonna get no justice out of that. The foundation of it is corrupt because those that wrote the Constitution held slaves. God. How could you even write that document and have the slave bring you tea as you're writing all that are created equal? You're a hypocrite. Malcolm X comes from a long line of black thinkers that didn't agree with Dr. King. And neither did Dr. King agree with Malcolm. What did Dr. King disagree with? Malcolm said, look, let us separate from this whole thing and build our own nation. It was called Black Power. Black nationalism. Let's build our own nation. What do we need these people for? Let's go. Dr. King said, nah, it ain't that easy. There's a thing called justice. And if we don't stand for it right here, nobody else in the world gonna get it. What an argument. What an argument. This argument has no end to it. This argument, it only has seasons to it. 1 minute Malcolm's right, next moment Martin. How do you even deal? Well, here's what happened. Hip hop comes from both of them. Both of these people were talking. You know what they were talking to? They were talking to us. The most famous speech, the I Have a Dream speech by Dr. King, given in 1963 in Washington, D.C., actually on the Washington lawn, as they say. He gave this phenomenal speech, I have a dream. And in his dream, he said, one day, my 4 little children, which is the hip-hop generation, by the way. His 4 little children is who became Kool Herc, Africa Bambaataa, that generation that he was talking to. Notice the speech. We play the speech all the time, but we think he's talking to the people right then and there. No, Dr. King didn't say nothing to the people in 1963. He had a dream. Dreams ain't for the present. Dreams are for the future. Dreams are visions. He even said within the dream, my 4 little kids. So he wasn't talking to no adults. He was talking to he said, my 4 little kids are gonna grow up in a society where they're not gonna be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. New concept for America. What, you mean to tell me you're not black? Dr. King said, of course I'm black. Getting a brick over my head for being black. But I think a little deeper than that. Where's justice? Where's love? Forgiveness? Faith? Vision? This is way past color. Way past ethnicity. This is character. Now you gotta ask yourself, what kind of man or woman am I? What kind of mother or father am I? Not what kind of black man am I? See, that's the problem. If more black men said, what kind of father am I? We'd be in a better situation. But in the 60s civil rights, it was, what kind of black man am I? What kind of African American am I? Am I joining the Panthers, or am I going with Student Nonviolent Committee, Coordinating Committee? Am I Malcolm and Garvey? Garvey. Marcus Garvey. Let me not call his name without saying this piece. Garvey is who taught Malcolm X. Garvey, as a matter of fact, Malcolm X's parents were Garveyites.
Yep.
They were Garveyites. They were down with Garvey. They taught their little kid Garvey. In fact, the reason Malcolm X became the hoodlum or the thug that he was in his early days was because the Ku Klux Klan ran over his father. They threw his father. His father was a Garveyite speaking in Nebraska in the 40s. They were lynching black people like you go and get chicken. Lynch another black man on the wall. Oh, well. He's standing up there going, no, this is not right. We're going to stand up against you. And he got everybody in the hood together to do it until the Klan came with guns. He's a Garveyite. He stood there with his rifle, said, come on, you ain't getting in my house. They overran him, grabbed him up, threw him on the railroad tracks and let the train run over. Little Malcolm seeing it. Then his wife, Malcolm's mother, experiences the whole thing. She goes crazy. They threw her in a nut house. She's gone. Malcolm in the streets now. Malcolm hooks up with 2 white chicks. They all thieves. Just to show you how devious white women could be. Don't get that Marilyn Monroe look on you now. No. These 2 chicks running with Malcolm was devious. This was their plan. In a time where black men couldn't even talk to white women without being harassed, Malcolm had 2 white chicks with him setting up white rich men. what would happen was these white girls, women, would go and befriend some rich white guy. And they'd make them think that, oh yeah, we going back to the crib, we gonna get busy, yeah, come on. Took dude back there and Malcolm would jump out. Robbed dude for everything he had. Where's the white black in this? Where's the racist? What do you call that? What do you call that kind of relationship? Like, these are white chicks setting up white men for this black dude. No, y'all not hearing me. Is that racism? Is that, what is that?
Money.
Don't get to the end of the lecture yet. It is money. Here's the deal. Malcolm, of course, he gets caught. His female partners, they get caught. They all go before the judge. Of course, the two white females, they get off easy, slap on the wrist. They did the most crime. They got off. Malcolm gets 10 years. 10 years. He goes in, of course, you know the story. He hooks up with a Muslim there. He becomes Nation of Islam. He comes out, he educates himself, and blah, 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 blah. You know the story. Why do I bring that up? Because also, I said, let me not bring up Marcus Garvey without telling you this little piece. And not bring up Dr. King and not tell you this little piece about him. Dr. King is from the W.E.B. Du Bois. Oh, you may know him, Du Bois, some say. But it's Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois. Malcolm is from his line. Garvey is a different lineage. Garvey started something called the United Negro Improvement Association. W.E.B. Du Bois starts, he doesn't start, but he becomes one of the early heads of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Now look at this. Negroes and colored people. These are two different people. Negroes was the hood. If you said anything about being Negro, you was in the hood. You was a part of the poor, working black people of that day, Negro. If you were colored, a little different. It means you had some white blood in you. You might have been a little lighter skin, a little straighter hair. You was a little more accepted into the American mainstream. You were colored. Negroes had nothing, no choice. They wasn't going nowhere, wasn't getting nothing. Colored people, though, could at least apply for certain things, and because of your color, because of your skin color, certain doors would open for you, others would shut, based on your skin color. So now, when we go back to the 60s and we see signs, all the signs of segregation said coloreds only. You know, colored washrooms, colored, drinking fountains, colored section of the movie theater, colored section of the courts. There was a colored section. Not one time did America ever make a Negro section anywhere in the public. You will never find Negroes only. Not in history. You're going to see colored. Now imagine, we look today and we say, wow, that was some evil colored. Look how they had black people. No. No, that wasn't black people. That was coloreds only. That not only said this is so complicated, you got to see this. Not only is colored only telling all black people, stay away from the whites only sign, but it's also telling Negroes that this is coloreds only. If you was under the line of Negro, you couldn't even drink at that fountain. It was coloreds only. W.E.B. Du Bois was colored. Marcus Garvey was Negro today. Why do I bring this up? You got to understand hip hop. This is where hip hop begins. One person wants to assimilate into the system. Another person wants to get the hell away from it. Who are you?
X.
Yeah, the answer, oh, it could be both. It could be 10% one, 90% the other, or maybe 40% Negro, 60% color, whatever. Who are you? Is the question. Because this argument has not gone. I can even go further back. It's not for this discussion. You guys are college students. Do the research. Before W.E.B. Du Bois, go back to Frederick Douglass. That's the even earlier line. Someone who wants to integrate into the American system, actually fought in the Civil War, gave up his 2 sons to the Civil War. One was killed, one came back with 1 leg. That's Frederick Douglass, one of the greatest orators. This guy was brilliant, but he still wanted to be dad. Right along, as Frederick Douglass is doing his thing, there's another guy called Martin R. Delaney. Remember his name, Martin R. Delaney. Had a totally different argument. He said, I'm not going to fight for no war. This has nothing to do with slavery. This is white folk losing their stuff and now want us to join in to get it. He wrote it down. Nobody will ever hear about his voice. Before you can get to hip hop, you gotta know this history. Because that's where we come from. We come out of this argument. Are we going to be part of the system, or are we going to try to build our own thing? Are we going to be part of the system, or are we going to try to build our own thing? Well, we wind up doing both. Here's where the story continues. So Kool Herc, as mentioned by the gentleman that introduced me here. Kool Herc, he said. Africa Bambaataa, Grandmaster Flash. Kool Herc coming from Jamaica. Jamaica gets its independence in 1967. 1968, Kool Herc comes to America. He comes to the Bronx. He's right there in the Bronx. He brings the Jamaican sound system concept into the Bronx. Now, just a little history on the author. So I was 7 years old in 1972. I arrived in the Bronx with my mother. Actually, what am I talking about? My mother arrives in the Bronx, and we're tagging along. So here we are, me and my brother Kenny, 1972, we arrive in the Bronx. Here we are in the Bronx, and a year later, 1973, August 11th, 1973, Kool Herc brings out his sound system to 1520 Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx. I lived across the street at this other building called 1600 Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx. Now my building is here, Kool Herc's building is here. In between that, there's a park. Kool Herc first, well, let me go back, give you a little background. And keep in mind, I'm talking about the history of the author to go forward with hip hop. But Kool Herc gets a request from his sister Cindy. Hip hop was created by women. Okay, I'll get back to that. His sister Cindy says, I need a DJ for my birthday party. Her little brother, Clyde, his little brother, he was a graffiti writer. And he was writing his name all over the hood, all over, Cool Ass Clyde, Cool Ass Clyde, cool. He's writing his name everywhere. His sister said, look, I need a DJ to play for my party. I know you get down a little bit, but he wasn't a DJ yet. It was because of Cindy. He walks up and he grabs some equipment, he borrows some equipment, and he goes to the 1520 Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx Community Center and starts playing the breaks of James Brown. A 1, 2, 3, 4, hit it, boom, boom, ba, boom, 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 ba. He would lift the needle up, drop it back on the break. A 1, 2, 3, 4, hit it, boom, boom, ba, boom, boom, boom. Sometimes he would blend it. He had 2 turntables, but 2 entirely different systems. This is before the mixer. This is a whole turntable amp equal everything, and another one. So he would blend between the two and try to create a continuous instrumental bed of music that we call the breaks. 1973, Kool Herc does this. I'm outside. I remember the day it happened. My moms wouldn't let me go. I was 8 years old. We could hear the music. Boom, boom, boom. We lived on the 9th floor. This is like the first floor, the community center. We're listening like, oh, please, Mom, can we go? No. Take that garbage out. Finish that homework. Loud mom stuff. So it was like, we said, okay, whatever. Next day, everybody talking about it. Yo, you was at that Kool Herc? Yo, that party was hot. Oh, man, yo, la, la, la. So the next Friday was another one. Next Friday was another one. People all outside. Now the cops is there. Fire department showing up. Too many people here. Kool Herc said, all right, let's take the party outside. Yes! That's when me and my little brother got a chance to get it. He took the party from outside 1520 Sedgwick Avenue, brought it to the park where we played every single day. He came out with the system. It was huge. Or better yet, we were small. But he had the most powerful sound system. His speakers were about this big. Literally, he had big speakers like this, bass bottom speakers. But of course, we were about this tall. So of course, Kool Herc was a giant to us. Everything about him was big. We were 8. He was like 16. And he was like 6. He was tall. And here we are, little kids trying to hear what he's doing. So Kool Herc now is entertaining me and my brother and a couple of hundred other young kids who would never have the opportunity to see something like this. He's bringing his system out. He's showing us James Brown. Also, he's showing us a group called the Amazing Bongo Band with this record called Apache. This was one of Kool Herc's staple records to play, Apache. And so this record would come on. We would jump off the wall with this dance called the go-off. The go-off would eventually be called breaking. In 1982, just jumping ahead a little bit, a news program named 2020, it's an old news program, 2020, interviewed the Rock Steady crew, Crazy Legs and them. And they said, there's a new thing going on in the streets of New York. It's called breakdancing. That's where the word comes from. We never called our dances breakdancing. We were breakers, or B-boys, B-girls. 2020 labeled us breakdancers. We never agreed with that title. To be real scholars, if you're going to discuss that form of dance, the correct term is breaking. B-R-E-A-K-I-N. No G. Breaking. So we jump off and now we're doing this thing. And why are we called breaking? Why is it called B-boy, B-girl? Because we're only dancing to the breaks of Kool Herc. Kool Herc would play all kinds of music. But when he said, jamming with the jammers, right, that's when this specific group jumped off the wall and started doing these moves, started doing all kinds of moves. Now, locking, and I need a B-boy up here, a B-girl, but just take these words for now and look it up.
Pop locking.
Pop, come on now. Actually, it's funny you say that. Locking is from California, Los Angeles, California. Poppin'. Poppin' is from Fresno, California. Fresno is about 150 miles away from Los Angeles. West Coast, as we say. Poppin' and locking are two different dance forms. They become combined when they reach New York, which already had something called up-rocking and windmilling, spinning on your back on the floor. Crazy Legs and the Rock Steady crew would combine all of this into one b-boy performance. There's a movie called Flashdance back in the days, where the story's about a female dancer, but when she does some move, and her highlight move was when she jumped up, landed on the floor, and did a windmill. The person actually doing the windmill was Crazy Legs. He was a stunt double, did the windmill. We all in the hood knew that was Crazy Legs. The rest of America didn't. They swore it was the actress that they saw through the whole movie. We all knew in the hood, yo, that's Crazy Legs. Yo, look at he's in the movie. One of the first times we started to see ourselves more than just being on the block. Crazy Legs. So they start calling this thing break dancing. They went further. What is called graffiti art was originally called piecing, burning, bombing, and tagging. Tagging is just when you put your name on. You just write your name. Piecing is when you it's a mural, basically. The murals you see, highly colored, geometry, art, basically, characters, big letters. That's called piecing. The deeper the colors get on your piece is called burning. Sometimes a piece could just be, black and white, just a silver and black outline. That's a piece. But a burner is when them colors are just crazy. You can't even look at a graffiti piece for long. Like, whoa, look at them colors. They're moving your eye around. You're like, wow. It's actually soothing to the eye. And you look at that. That's burning. Well, 2020 and the rest of these news shows, they said all that is called graffiti art. We never agreed with the title graffiti art. We are graffiti writers. Graffiti art is our cultural handwriting. It is our calligraphy. It is the way in which our culture writes. That was relegated to just art. Stop here. Everything I just told you is knowledge. Everything I just told you is a short biography about the author or about the teacher, the instructor today. If you don't know my history, you don't know much about what I'm talking about. Plus, once you learn what I'm now going to show you, you all leave out of here scholars. I'm going to say this respectfully because I'm in a university. Nothing knowable takes 3 years to know. Yeah, let it go in. Let it go in. Let it go in. Let it go in slowly. Don't take it all in at once. Let it go in slowly. Here it goes. Okay. Nothing knowable takes a year to know. The human mind is amazing. Anything you want to know, you can learn in an hour. The point is that the university has to make some money. It's true, we're not going to eat. Look, teachers got to eat, man. If you want to learn something, look, knowledge is not free. People believe knowledge should be free. Knowledge is not free. The person that's giving you knowledge had to go through pain to get that knowledge. Had to go through a life experience, had to pay his own or her own money to get that knowledge. No, knowledge is not free. The college is a business. Yes, it is. But that doesn't make it evil. It just makes it what it is. You as a student, you gotta know that. Now, I'm talking to you about knowledge. Why? Because what you're learning today is real hip hop. The way to think. Hip hop is a way to think.
I'll be sick of the rest of it, the best, but don't possess the necessary silky skills and seal to pill, but still they feel the legendary. Yes, really a mess, I sit in a stress, but right now, it's for 2C87.
Yes, Matt Matthews.
Peace, my name is Xavier.
Oh, it's Natty Kahu.
Yo, what's good? It's Jahazel.
Rago Zulu Rebel, yeah, aka Jam Messenger.
Yo, Christian Gabriel.
My name is Shakara, representing for the army, bigging up
gotkushTV.
Right name would say 10 damn worry, you ain't got nothing if you ain't got kush.
There was empires in Africa called Kush, Timbuktu, where every race came to get books. My success to you, even if you wish me the opposite. Sooner or later we'll all see who the prophet is.